Xenoblade 3 released last year, and since then, I and a collective group of experts have been exhaustively analysing every single detail from this game to bring you all the lore and information that you guys need to know. Hey, so, do you think Origin can time travel?
Bro, shut your bitch ass.
What the hell?
JP,
Fucking
fucking bastard. I had a
Come
bow
on,
and
why
brain
are you
when
like
that.
this?
Then I have to pay you to stick.
In spite of that, even with all of our extensive efforts, there are still many things that are left unanswered. So in this video, I will outline everything that we don't know about Xenoblade 3, whilst also getting up to speed with every theory and possibility we are considering thus far. Of course, there will be major spoilers in this video, obviously, so if you haven't finished Xenoblade 3 yet, click off this video now. With that all established, let's jump right into the video. So to start this off, let's begin with one of the biggest mysteries added into Xenoblade 3. Light. The concept of light was introduced at the beginning of Chapter 7, where Nia first enlightens the party to the truth about Aionios and Origin. According to her, light was used for a multitude of purposes, from trivial tasks like communicating over vast distances to more complex processes such as recording data inside of Origin. In addition, she also described it as the last common language that was left to us, making it sound like some sort of primordial power that has been around since the very beginning. Furthermore, light also appears to function conceptually like radio waves. There are differences in terms of their actual capabilities, so light isn't just literally light, but it can at least in some manner be used in similar ways. Nevertheless, this alone doesn't really clue us in to what light really is, but surprisingly, Xenoblade 1 might actually have already given us a hint. Vanea once reiterated something that Lady Mayneth had said.
The Monado is not simply a unique weapon. It is the light within each and every person in this world.
Light? What do you mean?
It is the light of life, the will to survive no matter what. Perhaps Lady Mayneth was drawn to your light.
This on its own is already significant, but when paired with part of Kay's monologue,
one might say, a coalescence of the will to live. I very much doubt it's going to break that easily now, isn't it?
then the connection suddenly begins to become clear. If this is to be taken literally, light may be the essence of life itself, and there might even be some evidence to support this being the case. As we can see during this screenshot, there appears to be a core crystal installed into Nia's communication device with Melia. We already know that the core crystals inside of Origin are storing the data of both universes as words of light, proving that they are compatible. So it isn't much of a stretch to assume that these can also allow communication themselves. In terms of how one could harness and utilize life itself, though, is unclear, but it's very possible that this may be an important clue to figuring all of that out. Up next, we're going to be taking a closer look at the protagonists of Xenoblade 3, Noah and Mio, and specifically their unique ability to keep reincarnating even after a homecoming. I largely covered most of the info about these two in my lore explanation video about N&M a while back, but I was unable at the time, and am still unable, to provide a clear answer as to how these two can keep coming back after death. One of the laws Zed created when weaving the fabric of Aionios was that those who reach their 10th term are removed from the cycle. However, both Noah and Mio have been seen on multiple occasions to surpass this limitation. This is primarily what led Zed to being so interested in Noah in the first case, ultimately tempting him to become a Mobius and succeeding. It's also unclear as to whether Noah and Mio were quote-unquote destined to meet one another, as we only see 4 to 5 different lives that they they lived together. But if this is the case, then it's akin to Xenogears spoilers, Faye and Ellie reincarnating as well. I've talked a number of times about how Xenoblade 3 is literally just Xenogears HD, but we can use this to our advantage by reapplying what happened to Faye and Ellie to Noah and Mio. In Xenogears, the answer lies in Faye becoming a contact for the Zohar, and Ellie literally being his mum. I'm not even joking. Applying this to Xenoblade, either Noah or Mio must have at some point come into contact with the conduit, but as you can imagine, this would be rather difficult after it dipped in Xenoblade 2. Therefore, in this situation, it is far more likely that Origin would serve as the Zohar in this analogy instead, as it does function similarly to a Zohar emulator, and need I remind you of this image? Admittedly, Origin is far weaker than what any conduit would be, but for the purposes of this topic, it would be more than enough. If this turns out to be the case, then the future Xenoblade games could turn out to be very interesting, as in theory, they would keep reincarnating even after Aionios' return to normal, meaning we may see future instances of Noah in other games, possibly even as a certain Black Knight, but for that, all we can do is wait and see. Next up, we're going to be looking into why every Agnian in Aionios now has a core crystal. At first glance, this might not seem all that important, but that's where you'd be wrong. At the end of Xenoblade 2, we knew that almost all of the Titans, Rip Indal, reached the new land, merging and becoming one with it. Assuming that the inhabitants of each Titan survived this collision, cause anime logic, then there should have been a number of different races left in what we'll call New Allrest, being the Gormotis, Ardanians, Urians, Indalines, and of course the Blades, each of which is present in Xenoblade 3. Excluding Blades, each of these races don't normally contain a core crystal in their body, questioning why they for some reason now have them in Xenoblade 3. The actual process of achieving such a feat isn't actually all that unfathomable, as both Blade and Flesh Eater technology would be relatively accessible, especially with Nia now being queen. But the real question is why? Why would they go to the effort of implanting a core crystal into each and every person? Well, there is honestly no good reason. The best we've been able to come up with so far is that it was a requirement for the people of Allrest to be recorded into Origin. However, this in itself has some issues, like the people of Keves seemingly not having to do anything at all. Maybe it was due to some political act, placing Blades and humans on the same level in this new society, or maybe it was just so that everyone could live longer lives. The answer might not become clear for a long time, but it is at least something noteworthy that we should keep an eye out for. And now we're on to the topic that everyone's been waiting for: Riku, as well as Noppon in general. As we all know, Noppon have existed ever since the beginning of the Xenoblade franchise, becoming the mascots for the series, so it's strange that in Xenoblade 3, they're one of the biggest mysteries that we're yet to uncover. For some reason, Noppon remain as the only race which Mobius didn't restrict to the Flame Clocks, each being free to wander Aionios and get up to whatever shenanigans they feel like. We do, however, already have a working theory on why this might be the case though. If Noppon were not compatible with either Iris technology or the Flame Clocks, then there would be no reason to harvest their lives, as in effect, this would simply become mass slaughter. It's therefore likely for this reason that Mobius made a pact with the Noppon of non-interference, basically an agreement that they wouldn't kill the Noppon as long as they allowed Aionios to function as Zed willed it to, and considering how shrewd the Noppon are, they were likely easily convinced. You might also be wondering why Noppon wouldn't be compatible in the first place, especially if they were already recorded as data inside of Origin. Well, I believe the answer lies in Xenoblade 2 specifically. In this scene, Klaus shows a diagram of evolution in Allrest, but one particular race is missing. You guessed it, the Nopon. If they weren't created through evolution, then how did they arrive in not only Allrest, but the world of Bionis and Mechonis as well? Personally, at the moment, I believe that Nopon are some form of higher domain being that entered through the conduit, and therefore, it's reasonable to believe that they do not contain the correct type of life energy for Mobius to feed on. Thus, there is no reason for them to kill them. But what about Riku specifically? All we know is that he had a super mysterious Masterpon who taught him the ways of forging origin metal, entrusting Lucky 7 to him, and that he has a knowledge he seemingly shouldn't have, especially if his claim of being a common variety Nopon is to be taken literally. For the most part, I actually believe that Riku isn't that significant of a character, as most of the weirdness surrounding him can easily be clarified upon learning his master's true identity. This is based on the fact that Riku appeared to be genuinely shocked and surprised when he first entered the city, further supported through the fact that whilst he may talk in a vague way, omitting important details, he never outright lies, instead allowing the party to discover the power within them themselves. As to who his Masterpon is, your guess is as good as mine, but we can presume that they are of Kavesi origin and are a Nopon, due to Melia acknowledging him and the forging technique seemingly being Nopon only, but we'll have to wait and see for more clarification. That brings us on to the next topic for today, which is a video I promised you all a long time ago. The Founders. I did at one point set out and try and bring you a full explanation video on these guys, but sadly we were unable to find any concrete information as to who these people really are, or even put together a functioning timeline. That said, even though we were never able to find anything certain, we did come up with a relatively convincing theory as to the identity of the Founders. Starting with House Reed and Cassini first, we know that both statues depict the mentors of the Founders, who are widely considered to be both Shulk and Rex from the previous two Xeno games. Hi there, Future JB here, popping in for a moment. Due to the recent trailer, this speculation has turned more so into a confirmation, so that's one win for Team JB. As for the students, we know that they're both female and that they almost certainly have extended lifespans, due to them both being trained by their mentors, presumably at the birth of Ionios, as well as them likely being present during the raids of the original city, an event that must have occurred at least 200-ish years later. Therefore, my prediction is that House Reed is actually a high-end Or Machina, whilst House Cassini must be a blade/flesh eater. In regards to House Ortiz and Rhodes, we know that both were once soldiers fighting in the endless war of Ionios, before being freed from the shackles by the other Founders, similar to how the start of Xenoblade 3 occurs. Other than that, however, we have next to no information. It's also thought that House Ortiz may also be the reincarnation of Shulk after potentially dying on the battlefield, but this is merely speculation. Lastly, we have House Vandam and House Doyle. We believe that House Doyle was a past version of Mio, but in addition, we also speculate that this version of Mio is the same one that became M. I always found it strange how M seemed to be on speaking terms with the city, even though she was Mobius. But if she was and continued to be one of the Founders even after death, then her actions suddenly make sense. Furthermore, this could also loosely explain the mention of her being related to the founder of Vandam. The theory follows that Vandam is actually Noah and Mio's son, the one who was abandoned in the forest, explaining his resemblance with Noah and the mentioned familial relation with House Doyle. It's therefore thought that this guy found his way to the city and was adopted by someone there, inheriting the name Vandam. Hello, back again. In the recent trailer, the Feifeng Wong lookalike also mentioned his granddad. If we follow the theory that I've laid out here, his granddad could have been either the man who adopted him or Rex, if Mio is indeed his and Nia's daughter. Still speculation for now though. With that, all of the Founders are talked about, right?
Wrong.
There's also a potential 7th Founder who we need to mention, who is almost certainly Noah, the same Noah who became M. N. We know that Noah was once an Ouroboros member when he turned Mobius, due to his iris when he transformed. Our prediction is that after Noah and Mio's deaths and the destruction of the original city, Vandam fought off N with the help of M and became the 6th Ouroboros member, replacing Noah, ultimately leading to Noah's face being omitted from the memorial hall in the city due to his betrayal. But at the end of the day, this is just a theory. That leads us onto the final topic for today, which is the names of Noah's sword and kid. It's referenced throughout Xenoblade 3 that Noah is incredibly awful at giving out names. It's almost certainly the case that Noah originally named his sword Lucky 7, though we can assume that the addition of Magic Sword was implemented via the Nopon, as I don't think that even Noah would be this cringe. As for what he renamed the sword, we truly have no idea, but there is a running joke that Noah called his sword Dark God, a potential throwback to Xenoblade X, which could tie in interestingly to the lore. That just leaves the name of his child, whom Mio named. I've seen quite a few ideas about this child's name, but my personal favourite theory is that Mio named him Hope. Admittedly, this isn't a great name for a guy, but the implications of what this could mean are so grand that I don't even care. The name Hope fits really well with the themes of Xenoblade 3, adding extra meanings to many of the cutscenes, both metaphorically and literally. This could then potentially lead into a connection with Hope's Rest, and I'm sure a lot of you see where this is going now. The idea that Noah's son was the first to be executed on this hill where the city once stood would be absolutely chilling. Furthermore, supporting this idea, the other Vandams, who in theory would be descendants of Noah and Mio, also appear to have inherited this trait throughout the ages, still being present today through Monica and Gondor. So hey, maybe I'm right. And Future JB is here for the last time in this video. If it wasn't obvious, this script and video were already in the works when the recent Direct got announced, so I have had to make a few tweaks, like removing the console A section. This video therefore doesn't contain anything we don't know on that recent teaser trailer, but rest assured that I will bring you more videos and updates when we know more on the upcoming DLC. So stay tuned for that one. And that pretty much sums up everything we don't know about Xenoblade 3. If you believe I've missed anything in this video, leave a comment below and I will either give an explanation or smack myself silly for forgetting. With all that said and done, I appreciate you all for watching this far into the video and hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, I'd love it if you'd click that subscribe button and notification bell to encourage me to make more videos like this one. Once more, I thank you all for watching and hope to catch you in the next one. This is JB, signing off.